everyone, my name is Jessica Little and welcome to our Conversations and Cheese Boards. I am so excited today to be having a conversation with my husband, business partner, and cheesemaker, Jeremy Little. And today we are sharing some cheeses that he made and we're so excited to talk about. Just as an overview, can you tell us what is your philosophy in cheese making? What do you love about cheese making and what drew you to this career?
I think the biggest thing for me is the emotional connection, I think, that I can have with the product. I actually read about that today in the book that you got me for Father's Day.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of references to an emotional connection between musicians and the work that they do, and that really resonated with me. So I felt like I feel like I share that philosophy in that, you know, taking the work of your mom and dad and your brothers and respecting that and honoring that and trying to figure out how to take that and turn it into something that resonates with the public or is a vehicle for someone else's vision or someone else's form of expression. I think is a really powerful connection for me. You know, like when you and I were dating, I wanted to be in a kitchen, and then I didn't have the skills to be in a kitchen, and nobody would, you know, there was no reason for anybody to pay attention to me. And then once you have a product that, you know, speaks for itself, all of a sudden people pay attention to you, and so I don't take that for granted.
So, well, I think that you are a really creative soul, and you were always looking for something like a medium to have something to say that you want to share with people, and cheese became that platform. So, speaking of creativity, and we talk about since cheese has been around for thousands of years, that really no one invents cheese per se, but they just rediscover it. And with Green Hill being kind of our unique or original style cheese, can you talk to me kind of about your inspiration or your journey in creating Green Hill?
Sure. I think that it's important that you recognize the fact that it's a journey, right? Like it's never done. So from the beginning, you know, I think your mom wanted to make a cheese that was very, very representative of the first rotational grazing dairy Green Hill. So she started with a lactic set curd, so long set overnight, hand ladled, but then it was just very, very time consuming. And I think it was really difficult to try to get consistent. And then we had that workshop here with Neville McNaughton, and he did a Port Salut, which I think independently, your mom and I both were kind of like, ooh, like this is maybe something that we could play with or whatever. But then she was just kind of like, well, here, you know, you figure it out. And I was like, okay. And I honestly think I just kind of got lucky. You know, I don't really think that I knew what I was doing. I think that I just kind of threw some stuff together, and it was better we got better results than we did with the lactic set. It was something that we could brine. We could, you know, it was way easier to handle. And I think it just kind of started from there. I don't, it's, you know, as you know, this year has been a very challenging year on the journey with Green Hill, but you know, I can honestly say that I've probably learned more about this cheese in the last 12 months than I have in almost 20 years. It was kind of an afterthought, you know, like it was just such a consistent cheese as far as the outcome. You know, the sizing has always been a challenge for us as far as the fact that it's, it's hand poured, as you know, two guys doing 500 cheeses, you know, each poured by hand multiple times, and keeping them consistent is very, very difficult, especially with fluctuations in the milk and seasonality, you know, in as far as the weather and that sort of thing goes here in the cheese plant. But you know, this year has definitely been an interesting year as far as trying to understand little challenges, or changes, I should say, in the environment. I think that what I've learned about most has been, you know, the temperatures in the different rooms and how they feed each other, as far as what impact they can have negatively, but then also, you know, going the opposite swing, you know, it can have a much more accelerated effect on ripening as well.
Sure. So I think that's one of the things that I do really love about you just in general is that you're such a tinkerer. You're not afraid to, you know, keep trying new things and to try to get the results that you want. And I've seen you work really, really hard in many cheeses, but specifically I think Green Hill and Asher Blue perhaps the most that have kind of challenged you and pushed you to be this continuous growth of a cheesemaker.
Sure. I think that you know, we just don't give up. Like, we'll get there sooner or later.
You'll keep trying.
Yeah, I mean, you'll keep trying or you'll shut it down because it costs too much money.
Well, I haven't seen you shut anything down yet, so.
Well, I don't think that we're wired that way, right? Like, we figure out how to do it or we just keep digging. You know, we get there. And we don't just tinker with stuff that has problems. I mean, we tinker just to tinker because
you're creative.
Well, I think that I'm always looking for the, you know, what's going to happen if. I think if that's your definition of a tinkerer, you know, like, I think you could say I'm never satisfied. You could say I'm just curious, you know, like I'm curious about what happens if we adjust this or what happens if we adjust that. And I think it really boils down to, in the end, trying to find something new and exciting for the end consumer, because that's really what fuels my fire, is having something that's worthwhile, something that I'm proud of putting in front of someone else, something that I have an emotional connection with because I've explored it and I've said, wow, this is, you know, I don't know that I'll ever say this is as good as it's ever going to be, because I don't believe that it's ever done. You know, like, I think that you and I have had conversations with, again, coming back to a musical reference, but like, I've always wondered, how do you know the song is done? It's just done. I mean, I think that you clip it off when you think it's done, and then I don't know if you have like buyer's remorse or regrets about, you know, like, what if Stephen King or, you know, Maya Angelou or somebody has some change that they wish that they had included in a book after it's already been published. You know, I guess I'm fortunate that I can continually reinvent whatever it is we're going after.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think that there is something to that pursuit of excellence. I mean, you've always kind of had these really high standards, but one thing that I do think that you brought with you from your days in a kitchen and cooking is really understanding that sometimes the most important technique that you can have, whether it's cooking or making cheese, is restraint, and really letting those raw materials kind of shine through.
Sure.
And I think that, you know, I've appreciated your delicate approach to cheese making. It's you just really truly want to be the vehicle and taking something that's so wonderful already in that high quality milk and giving this high quality cheese to the end consumer for whatever experience that they're looking for. What would you say what would be a vision of success for you if you saw somebody with your products? What sort of vision would you say, okay, that cheese was a success?
A smile.
A smile.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you know, we've seen lots of people have all kinds of wacky reactions, you know, with tasting our stuff. Anything from, you know, wow, I don't like that, to all sorts of emotional reactions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, from across the board, I guess you could say. But I think that a smile is a smile. I mean, like, you know, like, genuine smile is one that's a pretty immediate reaction. You know, when someone has that kind of, you know, when I'm able to give somebody, you know, especially in the day's environment, you know, when something that I produce can make someone smile in a time like this, I don't know that there's a better win.
You want to bring joy.
Yeah, I mean, if you need to.
Okay, so, you know, kind of going back to your beginnings, falling in love with food and working in restaurants first, I know that one thing that I really also love in your approach to cheese making is you think about the end product in mind when you're starting, as far as usability. And here on the cheese board I have today is a cheese that you don't make often, but I think it melts so well and is so good in recipes. It's Georgia Gouda, and I remember you telling me that you really wanted to make a cheese that would melt perfectly in a grilled cheese sandwich. And can you kind of talk about that thought process and development?
Sure. So, when I was a kid, having a grilled cheese sandwich and tomato soup was, like ultimate comfort food for me. And, I think a lot of people have that. They love that combo. Like it's a very, very classic combination, and, something that I think a lot of people can relate to. But Georgia Gouda is, it's a larger format cheese than the other aged cheeses that we produce. So it's made in roughly a 10-pound wheel. But also, in order to get that really great meltability and elasticity in the texture, it has to be it's what they call a washed curd cheese. So some of the whey is removed and then it's replaced with hot water, and then the curd is pressed under the whey, and it sort of gets all the curds to knit together and helps to preserve some of that moisture. And so a lot of your cheeses like raclettes and other cheeses that really have that pliability and that elasticity that allow it to melt really, really well are made in that fashion. And I do think that Gouda is one of my favorites that we make. And the reason that we don't make it is because it ends up being a half a batch compared to the other cheeses. So it's really only something that we can make when we've got enough, so to speak, of the other cheeses. But I do think that it's definitely a great addition.
Mm-hmm. So I will say that I think you're an amazing cheesemaker, and I look forward to, it's been really great to watch your development in experimenting and all the cheeses, and really refining what we have and making, a lot of times it feels like we're making lemonade out here in our current facility. And I really look forward to the next 20 years and watching you develop as a cheesemaker and releasing new products, which I know you're so excited about, and really diving into that R&D. Here's to an awesome first 20 years of Sweetgrass.
Yay.
And looking forward to the next 20.
Sure.